Harriet Tubman, the woman who could not be caught. Night fell over the countryside of Maryland. In the biting cold wind, a little black girl curled up in a rickety shack at the edge of a plantation. Her name was Araminta Ross, later known as Harriet Tubman. From the moment she was born, Harriet had no childhood. She was not a child, she was property, a tool for labor in the eyes of the slave owners. At just 5 years old, she was forced to work, babysitting, cleaning, fetching water, and was frequently beaten. There, her body was not her own, it belonged to someone else. Harriet grew up in violence and fear, but deep within her soul, a small flame never died. Every night she gazed up at the glittering stars in the pitch black sky and wondered, was there a place where someone like her could live free? Though too young to fully understand concepts like human rights, freedom, or justice, Harriet's heart felt the sting of injustice like a daily wound on her skin, the fateful wound. At age 13, Harriet witnessed another enslaved person attempt to escape. In the chaos, she ran to protect him and was struck in the head by a heavy iron weight thrown by an overseer. Harriet collapsed, blood soaking the ground. From that day on, she began to suffer from seizures and sudden blackouts, symptoms resembling epilepsy. But strangely, during those episodes, she said she saw visions of God. Those dreams and divine visions became her lifelong source of strength. Whenever she had an episode, her body would freeze, but her mind became clearer than ever. She saw a path stretching through a dense forest, welcoming arms reaching out, and heard God's whisper, "You must lead them to freedom." And she believed so deeply that she was willing to risk her life to follow that path. The first escape. In 1849, when she learned she was about to be sold away, Harriet made a decision: freedom or death. She fled the plantation in the night with nothing but a piece of bread, a scarf, and her faith. She walked hundreds of kilometers through swamps and forests, hiding under wagons, navigating by the stars. She walked not knowing what lay ahead, only that behind her were chains, blood, and tears. During her escape, Harriet narrowly avoided capture multiple times. Once she heard dogs barking and hoofbeats pounding through the woods. She hid for an entire day inside a hollow tree, too afraid to move. Another time she nearly drowned crossing an icy river in winter. But every time she faltered, she remembered the faces left behind, her mother, father, siblings, and she rose again. Eventually, she reached Pennsylvania, a free state. But Harriet did not celebrate. For her, freedom meant nothing if her family and people remained in bondage. The return to darkness. Just a year later, Harriet returned to the South. Alone, under the cover of night, she came back to rescue her sister and nieces. Then she returned again and again. Over 10 years, Harriet made at least 13 trips back into the land of death. She let out children, the elderly, friends, parents, and never lost a single soul. She used clever tactics, disguises, traveling in winter to avoid dogs, using songs as signals, and always carrying a gun, not to kill, but to stop anyone from turning back. Every journey was a brush with death. Once she was ambushed and had to hide in a swamp for 3 days, eating leaves and drinking rainwater. Some nights the cold felt like it would freeze the blood in her veins, but she never stopped. She knew that if she turned back, not only would she die, the hope of freedom would die with her. A $40,000 bounty was placed on her head, a massive sum in those days, but she was never caught. To the enslaved, Harriet was Moses, the one who led them through the darkness, a warrior in war. When the American Civil War broke out, Harriet didn't stay on the sidelines. She joined the Union Army, working as a spy, scout, and nurse. No one expected a small black woman to be the one drawing maps, transmitting messages, and gathering intelligence behind enemy lines. Her crowning moment came in 1863. She led the Combahee River Raid with 150 black soldiers. Harriet crossed the river, destroyed Confederate supply depots, and freed over 700 slaves in one night. It was the only time in U.S. history that a woman led a military campaign to liberate enslaved people. Soldiers who fought beside Harriet said she was never afraid. While bullets whizzed past, she stood in the river shouting, "Hurry, we don't have time to tremble." They didn't see a woman, they saw a flame, a woman of the people. After the war, Harriet did not live in wealth. She returned home to care for her aging parents, opened her doors to the poor and homeless. She couldn't read or write, but she fought for the right to vote, for women and black people. She spent her money to buy land, then donated it to build a nursing home. Harriet once said, "I had two mothers, the one who gave birth to me and the one who raised me, pain. But from that pain, she created love, love for those she had never met, for children without fathers, for abandoned elders. She was the mother of freedom, a monument without stone." Harriet Tubman died in 1913 at the age of about 91. On her grave in Auburn, New York, are the words, "Servant of God, well done." Today, Harriet Tubman is a national symbol. Statues, films, and schools bear her name. Though she lived in poverty, she left behind a legacy that can never be erased: boundless courage, unconditional love, and freedom for hundreds. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger. Harriet Tubman,